The following series contains opinions from paid professionals. The information provided in this video is general in nature and not advice. For free and confidential support, call 1800 858 858 or visit www.gamblinghelpline.org.au. Hello and welcome to the final episode of Grace and Gator's Cup Countdown. Why is it the last time? Because the Melbourne Cup is tomorrow, Gator. We are finally here.
It's upon us at last, and as we've sort of been thinking, the landscape's been changed. It's been a roller coaster, hasn't it, all the way through? A couple of the top end of the market, some world-class athletes aren't there, but let's focus on who is here. It's still our greatest race, and there's some still elite world-class talent in this field. Yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned the fact that it has been a roller coaster, in particular, just over the last couple of days. I mean, the landscape itself has changed so much in such a short space of time, but that's all under the water, under the bridge now, because we've got the final field. It's all about trying to find out who the winner is. So as we take a look at what the final field does look like, 24 runners, fantastic. Hopefully we get that full field to face the starter. In terms of those that add a lot of intrigue, there's lots of different stories. Chris Waller, he's got some key chances, doesn't he? We've got jockeys having their first ride in the race. In my opinion, something I'm looking forward to is there's a couple of key hopes that are having their second attempt at the Melbourne Cup, which in recent years has been a very good recipe to winning.
Now, it's a good point you make, and obviously the top of that tree, I think, is Willie Mullins' pair, isn't it? Boban and Absurd, who, inverted commas, failed in the race last year, but they've come up with a myriad of excuses why they underperformed. Both horses probably going better this year as well.
I think that's a really, really good point. So that's the final field, the makeup of it in terms of what we need to work out is how the race is going to be run and won. Now, obviously it's a Melbourne Cup and anything can happen. But for me, the speed map and tactically trying to work out who's going to be in the winning position is key. So how do you think it sets up?
Yeah, it's a challenging one because the race shape of this great race over the years, you go back and look, you saw a fast run race, the Very Elegant one, but it was pretty on-pace dominated. Twilight Payment set a strong speed and kept on running, whereas last year they went hard, some 9 lengths above Group 1 average, and it was a run-ons race. The first 6 home were all out the back at the 500 metre mark. Probably makes Absurd's run a little better than what it looks. So I'm expecting it to be less fierce than last year, which won't be difficult, but just finds a logical leader. But because he's a query at the trip, I don't think he's going to go overly hard.
Same. I think that's a really good point. He's the one that everybody expects to take up the field, but don't expect for him to go and set a cracking tempo. A couple of the other horses, like Akita Sushi, I think will press forward and end up in the perfect spot. I think he's almost the map horse of the whole race, probably gets the 1-1. But those horses drawn low, the Zardozis, the Sea Kings, I don't think that they're going to make the leaders work. I think they'll be happy to hand up, and that just adds to the fact that I don't feel like it's going to be a high pressure race.
Yeah, I think you're right. And those couple of horses you mentioned, they've been over racing a little bit. So the last thing, though, connections and jockeys probably want to do is fire them up out of the gates and get them over racing. At the end of a marathon, that can really tax you, as we know.
So I think there's some certainly key winners out of the barrier draw. For me, Akita Sushi is one of them. Do you have one that springs to mind that you think is the map horse of the race?
Yeah, I think Sea King's the one who can fall asleep from gate 1 and probably be 6th or 7th inside, just getting that lovely trail off what we think will be a below Group 1 average tempo. So look, he's got a few mates that have drawn well, a couple others not so well, but that's the nature of the race.
Well, this is a really good segue because getting to our top 4 now, we'll go through the horses that we've landed on and those that we think have got a really good winning chance in the great race. And Buckaroo is where we start because this is your on-top selection. How do you feel about Barrier 21?
Look, I wouldn't have picked it. It wouldn't have been my first pick, but he's an off midfield with cover horse anyway, so it's a long run, as we well know, to the first turn. Joe Moreira's got a rough idea what he's doing, so it hasn't deterred my confidence greatly. A little bit, probably going from an 8 to 7.5 out of 10, but I think he brings in the best last start performance. He's running the Caulfield Cup. I thought the run of the month till Via Sistina came along and turned into Far Lap in the Cox Plate. So I'm going to stick with that. Will he run the trip? Well, I'll tell you straight after the race.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to suggest that he won't run the trip because he was so strong to the line. So I agree he's got a great winning chance. I just query as to how how far back he gets.
Yeah.
But out of that same Caulfield Cup, a horse that I really like at a price is Land Legend, and he probably gets back as well. I think the key to this horse's chances from barrier 18 is for Zach Purton to actually put him to sleep, like be so quiet, so conservative out of the barrier, because the biggest problem for him is that he gets so fierce and so keen in the run. But Chris Waller is a master, and he's got earmuffs in the race going on for the first time. So Zach, with that race experience aboard him, I think there's lengths of improvement in Land Legend and what we've seen this preparation if he can settle. So if he can settle, I think he's in with a massive chance.
Yeah, you've been in his corner for a while, but it's the same issue, isn't it? That keenness, and it can really be costly at the end of a marathon. But he's in the right hands. I mean, Very Elegant was a problem child.
Yes,
Chris Waller got her to relax and was a brilliant winner of this great race. So I agree with you. He's a clear winning hope. Yeah,
I think he'll be really strong at the end of the 32 as well. Who else are you thinking is in contention?
Yeah, so I've got Buckaroo on top, but Vauban I think is a big danger. Had real trouble splitting them. He comes off a 2.3 length second at Kyprios.
Yep.
I mean, his win prior to that was terrific, and the horse that he beat there came out and won by 8 in a listed race. So his form's world class, and they keep saying we got it wrong last year for this, that, and the other reason. So I'm giving him another go. Absurd was a sneaky good run in this race last year. He peeled out a long way from home in a fast run race and was only the last 200 that he knocked up. He's going better, I think, this year than last year. And Land Legend, my 4th pick. So that's my top 4. I'll definitely take a trifecta at first 4 with a tab because it'd be un-Australian not to.
I'll be un-Australian not to. And you know what? Put as many as you want in there. Box them up. Try and get some sort of a dividend there. In terms of what rounds out my first 4, I think Akita Sushi, as you have been saying this whole time on this show, you need to be in form and you need to be coming off almost a career peak rating, coming off a massive last start run. Akita Sushi fits that mold for me. He wasn't bad in the race last year. He's clearly going better now. Kieran Ma is another trainer that you just put all the trust into for a race like this. So he maps perfectly. He can be just in behind what we're thinking isn't going to be a high pressure race in terms of the speed. So I think Akita Sushi's in for 3rd for mine. And One Smooth Operator, I really like Interpretation. He's in my top 7. One Smooth Operator gave him windburn last start off the plane and probably has improvement now out to 3,200 metres. So to summarise, Gator, what is your top 4?
Alrighty, let's go. Number 2, Buckaroo on top for the reasons outlined, outstanding in the Caulfield Cup. Number 1, Vauban. Number 9, Absurd. Number 8, Land Legend.
I've got too many numbers in my head at the moment. I can't reel off numbers, but what I can tell you is names and confidence levels. Number 1 for me is, on top for me, I should say, is Vauban ahead of Land Legend at a price. I've then got Akita Sushi, the map horse of the race, and in for 4th, the progressive One Smooth Operator. So with that in mind, everybody, take your exotics, take your first 4s and your trifectas, and Gator, hopefully we've got the winner somewhere in the mix that we've just mentioned.
That's the plan, and as I say, have a bit of fun with it. Enjoy the day. Trifecta's first 4s on the Tab app, the great way to play the race and have a bit of fun with you.
Well, we've had a lot of fun.
We have.
On Grace and Gator's Cup Countdown. We hope you've enjoyed this episode as we have the whole season.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.